Good morning and welcome to your Farm and Home Show. My name is Joanna Coles, and this morning we're visiting with Dr. Travis Legleiter. He's with the University of Kentucky. He's an extension weed scientist there. Good morning, Travis.
Good morning, Joanna.
Well, Travis, today we're going to talk about something that I think sometimes can slip our mind, and that is tank contamination, especially with
That's
herbicides.
right. Yes. So tank contamination, I think over the last couple of years, guys have become more aware of it, but we really have become extremely aware of it as we start moving forward, because farmers now have, if we think about soybean alone, they have a lot of options available to them in herbicide tolerances. So I think there's 5 different packages available to farmers, and there's at least one, if not 2 more coming on in future years. So while most of those packages have resistance to glyphosate, they're going to vary in their resistance to stuff like Liberty, 2,4-D, and dicamba. And that's where an applicator has to be really careful if they're switching between those varieties and making sure we're not injuring crops after we've applied one of those products.
Well, how would we, when you mentioned be careful, what are some of those
Yeah.
steps that
Yeah. So a lot of it's sprayer hygiene. So it's making sure that spray system gets completely cleaned out when you go from one field to another. If you're switching varieties, now in an ideal world, you spray all of one type or one herbicide tolerant trait once and then clean out and then switch over. But during that clean out process, it's all about good sprayer clean out. And so that involves a triple rinse process, and that's not a or a quick process. It's a slow process. It's a process that's going to take a big sprayer is going to take a couple of hours to get cleaned out. And so that's triple rinsing the tank, starting with the tank and then moving down through the system, making sure you clean all your filters and all the plumbing all the way to the boom. So the other thing is boom contamination. A lot of times guys focus on the tank alone, but then they don't clean the boom. If you think about a 90-foot or 120-foot boom, there's still a lot of spray in that boom and all the plumbing that's in there. So we have to make sure to get the boom cleaned as well. And usually that's the last thing we clean because we need to get the front end or the tank cleaned first.
And you mentioned it being a long process. And Travis,
Yeah.
you know that when we are busy and we only have usually a certain window that we can spray, sometimes that can be ignored. But explain the potential damage if we don't do that.
Yeah. So the potential damage, especially with some of the growth regulators, something like 2,4-D or dicamba, they're very sensitive to those growth regulators. So it doesn't take a lot. And that's why we have to be cognizant of it. That's why we have to really think about it, is because it does not take a lot. Just to, a soda can of dicamba in a 1,000-gallon spray tank is all it takes to injure your soybean. So it doesn't take a lot, and that's why we need to slow down and make sure you clean the entire system. And it goes beyond dicamba. It applies for 2,4-D and even glufosinate as well. We need to make sure the entire system is cleaned out before we switch over to that next product. Because as a lot of us know, glyphosate usually is going to be in the tank with all those other things, and it's really good. It's a good tank cleaner itself. It actually does a good job pulling out other products that might be embedded in the hoses or the tanks, and that's when guys really get themselves in trouble, is if they let that sit overnight and they can start pulling stuff out of the tanks.
Now, you mentioned the boom, because we do think about the tank and getting it clean, flushing it out. But is there a certain technique to get that boom and those nozzles clean?
So it's taking all the nozzles and all the screens, if you have screens on your nozzles, taking those all out and cleaning them. And some guys just have multiple sets of nozzles and screens, and that way they can switch out as they're cleaning and just say this set, they'll switch to a whole new set, let that set soak and clean while they do the other one. But it's taking those off and cleaning them and then making sure you get that triple rinse of clean water through that boom to get everything out of that system. And if you have dead ends on that boom, or basically boom sections that go beyond the last nozzle, making sure we have some type of outlet there to clean out that as well. And that's something most manufacturers have gotten rid of, but it's something to be aware of as well.
All right. Well, we certainly appreciate the information to keep that fresh on our mind, because the last thing we want to do in this economic climate is cause damage that we could take steps to prevent. So, Travis, appreciate you visiting with us today. And if you have any questions, make sure to contact your local extension office. Thanks for watching and have a great day.